will get depressed if they don't get any. You see them going out with their friends, and instead of connecting with their friends,
what a pleasure
they will
it is
simply
to have you on the show.
sit and talk on the phone.
Truly our
Let me show you
pleasure,
something
by
that's
the way.
really powerful. Can I borrow your phone,
You've been a
please?
part of the lexicon
There's
of
one right
this
there in between you.
company
Just let me borrow that for a
since
sec.
we started.
I'm asking you to give me somebody else's
Very
phone.
small handful of
You don't have to turn it on.
very
I just
long
need it.
office in Compton.
Thank you. So let me show
Our
you the
chief marketing
subconscious
officer,
power
Nick
of this
Robinson,
device.
said, "Dude,
What if I were to
this
hold my
guy's
phone while
written,
I'm giving this presentation?
exactly
I'm not
what we
checking
talk
it,
about
it's not
here.
buzzing,
You've gotta
it's
see
not
it
beeping.
codifies
I'm
everything
simply
sort of
holding it.
bumbling
Do you
around.
feel like you're the most
And
important
Percy
thing
made
to me
us
right
watch
now?
your talk,
No,
your
you do
TEDx
not.
talk.
And this is an
It was
artificial
amazing.
environment.
And
Now
the
think about how
that's
often this
all
phone is
we
out
did.
while
And
we're
it
talking to
really
other people.
did,
Hey boss, can I talk to you? Sure, what's on your mind?
vague notions
As
of
opposed
what this
to,
needed to become,
sure,
for us, and
what's
so
on your
that
mind?
became our mantra. Like, we need to
We go out for
understand
dinner or
which
lunch with
forced
our
us to
family
do
and our
what we did,
friends.
which is
We have meetings,
incredibly
and we put the
instructive.
phone
And one of
on the
goals of the show
table,
is
which sends a
bring on
subconscious
people
message to everybody else in the room
so I can say
that this is not that important to me.
Thank you.
You're
It really,
not
really
that
has been
important
amazing.
to me. And by the way, putting your phone upside down is not more important. This is my favorite one,
Now,
where the phone rings in the middle of a dinner, in the middle of a lunch, in the middle of a meeting, and somebody goes,
Thank you.
I'm not going to answer it. Oh my God, just so magnanimous.
You can learn about our future from our past.
Right?
Because
Thank you.
regardless of technology
Right?
or the
Put it
speed of
away, keep it away,
innovation,
because what it does is it actually hurts our ability to relate to
thing
each other.
that
Now you
I
look at young
really
kids
found
these days,
interesting
they're on them
is
all the
some
time. I don't blame them.
what are some,
It is
huge
addiction.
traits about just
We yell and scream at them, but it's like yelling and screaming at an alcoholic.
Well, I
It
think
doesn't
one of the things
help the
that we
fact that it's a
forget is
chemical
that we are a legacy
addiction,
machine
right?
working in a
So you
very
take an
different environment
insecure
than we
generation
were,
that now, through no fault of their own,
our species
struggles to
sort of started
cope with
showing up
stress.
about
They don't
50,000
know how
years
to
ago.
cope
There
with
were other hominid
and deal with
species
stress.
that existed at
And
the
as
time.
they have
died
told
off,
me,
we survived.
many of them will
And it was
admit
those
that they
evolutionary
struggle to
traits that
form
gave us the
deep,
opportunity to
meaningful
outlive our
relationships. They will
competition,
admit that
but
many
also
of their
survive
friendships
and
are
thrive,
superficial.
even as the environment around us changed.
Right? That their friends they know would cancel on them
We
if they
live in
get a better
populations that were
plan,
never
that
bigger
they
than
wouldn't
about
really know who to
150
talk to
40,000 to
if
50,000
they get
years ago
depressed.
on the planet. It's only
And
the
maybe
past
they'll turn to an
10,000
online
years
support group, which is not a
farming
real thing.
that we've been living in
It's not
populations that
human.
were larger than that. In other words, we're
Right?
not made for this. Which means all the
And we've seen the
rules
impact of
being
this.
human
We're starting to see
exactly the same as
rises
they
of
used to
depression
be
in this
when we were
generation.
living in
We're starting to
populations
see
of
rise of
about
suicide in this generation.
if you
We're
can
starting to see a
understand
rise
those
of
things,
accidental
if you really
deaths due to
understand what
drug
works and what
overdose
doesn't work,
from this
regardless of
generation.
age.
Universities
The
are
fact of the matter
currently
is we
dealing
are social animals,
with an epidemic
and
that
we
they've never
respond
dealt
to
with
the
before, which is
environments we're
the
in.
number of
Always.
kids requesting
Our very
leaves
survival
of
depends on our
absence
ability to
due to depression.
cooperate and trust.
Right? Now, those are all
people
extreme
that we
examples.
live
The less
or work
extreme
with,
and more
right?
likely example is that someone
take
will
a
go
good
through
person
life
and put them in a
just
bad
never really
environment,
finding joy
and that
or
person will do
fulfillment.
bad things.
And everything's
You
just
can take a person who
fine.
maybe the
How's your
group
job? It's
doesn't
fine.
trust. Maybe
How are
they
your
even
friends?
perform
They're fine.
bad acts.
But
You
no
put them in a
joy
good
because you
environment,
just cannot,
and they're
because
capable of turning
joy,
their lives around
fulfillment
and
comes
becoming
from this. It comes from
remarkable
human
members of
interaction.
society.
We
In
are
other words, it's
social
not the
animals and we
person,
need
it's
it.
the environment.
And we have to learn to rely on our
Leaders are
friends.
responsible for that environment.
And that skill is
And I think
desperately
leaders
lacking.
forget that. Leaders think that they're responsible for the
So
results.
you add in the
There's
next
not
one,
a leader on the
impatience.
planet
This generation is
that
often
responsible
accused of
for the
being
results.
entitled.
A leader is
And if you've
responsible
worked
for
with
the
any of them
people
before,
who are
sure
responsible
seems
for the
that way.
results. And if you take care of that,
But I would
take care
argue
of the
that
people, take care of the
we're
environment,
misreading the tea
things
leaves.
go just fine.
They're not entitled. They're
You
impatient.
know, we're obsessed with this idea
Again,
of like getting the
let's
right
practice
people on the
empathy.
bus. You know,
How did
As if
they
it's
grow
this
up? They grew up in a
game
world
just
of
sort
instant
changing people out.
gratification. You want to buy something, you go on Amazon, it shows up the
mix and
next
match or
day.
something.
You want to
But we
watch a
never
movie,
ask
you don't check
which
movie
bus
times, you
and
just
who's
log on and
driving the
download it
bus.
whenever you want to watch it.
You know,
Stream
because
it.
it's
Right?
not-
You want to watch a TV show?
the
You don't
bus
wait
matters.
week to week to week.
Yeah.
You just binge watch for the
so
weekend.
I'm
In fact, if you want to get
more
hold of
obsessed
somebody,
with
you don't
what
leave a
happens
message on
to
their
people,
machine and wait 4 hours for them to get the message
when
and
they
call you
come
back.
together in
You just text them
protective
and
or
they'll
unprotected
get back to you
environments and how we
literally
respond to those
instantaneously. It doesn't work that way. It's a journey. It's the same with love. It's like, I found love. No, you didn't. You work hard every single day to stay in
What we do
love.
is they tell us because they have authority
It's
over
a
us, but we
journey.
wouldn't follow them.
It's as if they're standing at the foot of a mountain. They know exactly what they want. They can see the summit. What they don't see is the mountain. I talk to some recent college grads who are in their entry-level jobs on a regular basis, and I'll ask them things like, how's it going? And they'll say, yeah, I think I'm going to quit.
Leadership is a
I'm
practice
like,
like any
why?
other.
They're like,
It is a
I'm not
skill
making an
that can be
impact.
learned.
I'm like, you've been
And
here
that means
8 months,
it requires
right?
practice. You don't just
And this is
suddenly
the
get a
problem.
promotion
They
because
see
you're
it
now
as
in a management
destination. I'm not
position.
making an
You're a
impact. I
leader,
hear it all the time.
right? That's not
But they
how
don't
it
even know
works.
what that means,
If only,
impact.
right?
Yes, we all want to make an impact. What kind of impact?
We have to learn it.
What do you want to do? How do you want to
get good
contribute
at
to
it,
the
which
world?
is
This is what
junior
vision
rank
is. This is what why is.
So even if you
it's become generic and abstract.
have the ability
but the problem is
to
they're
make decisions
wafting
that will
around.
impact the
They're
entire
looking for the
organization,
right. They'll go from
they're-
job to job to job, hoping that the next one sticks. They go from relationship to relationship, hoping that the next one is the love that I've been looking for. They don't know how to ask for help, and it makes them feel even worse because they can't find the thing that they're looking for. Maybe it's me.
Do they feel that they can turn to you and
Mechanisms
ask you for help? That's
that
all within your control. It's the same thing as
Once everything resolved and resolved now.
being a good friend.
I have a thought. Let me just send a
That
text
means
as opposed
that
to
our
let me
friends
wait an
can
hour
rely on
when
us,
I'm
they
done
can
with lunch
trust
with
us,
you,
they
and then
can
I'll send
turn
my
to us.
text,
There's
for
no difference.
example.
It's human beings.
And then we
It's
get to
human
the fourth and aegis
At the end of the day,
the four
becoming a leader
observations.
is about a transition.
Environment.
And everybody has to go through
We're
it
now
if you want to become a
taking
leader.
this
And
wonderful,
as an
smart,
aside, I will say,
idealistic,
leadership
ambitious,
is like parenting
hardworking,
in the sense that
good,
everybody
that
has
we're
the
dealt a
capacity to be a parent.
bad
That doesn't
hand.
mean everybody. People just
And
don't
we're
want
putting them in corporate environments that do not care about them as human beings. Right? We have, for some reason, our work world has changed over the past 20 and 30 years. We are suffering the side effects of business
It's a lifestyle
theories
they choose
left
not to
over
have,
from
that's
the
fine.
80s and 90s.
That's absolutely fine. But
And
if
they-
or need to go through a transition. When we're very, very
Theory
junior,
proposed
the only thing we have to
in the
do
late
is be good at
1970s.
ourselves. That's it. Right?
It
Some
was
people go get
popularized
in how to do
in the 80s and
their
90s.
jobs, engineers,
It is now
accountants.
standard, and you ask them
And
their
if you're
priority,
good at your job, they'll promote you. The people
and they say maximize shareholder value.
who do
Really?
the job.
That's like a coach prioritizing the needs of the fans over the needs. Remember,
Just
the
expect them in
80s
front of a machine and demanded results, but never showed them how to use the machine. And so the reason we get managers, the reason we get micromanagers,
the 90s were boom
nobody showed them
years with relative peace and a kinder,
job,
gentler
leadership
Cold
for
War.
one.
Nobody was
And two,
practicing hiding
they
under the mass layoffs, using someone's livelihood to balance the books, right? It's so normal in America today that we don't and they announce a
At
round
all.
of layoffs. Do you know
What
the
you
quickest
can
way
do
to
is
destroy
screw with
trust
someone's
and
life,
destroy
will then
cooperation in a
impact your
business?
company.
Literally, in someone home.
or support someone who will then
To say, honey, I can no longer provide
People
for our
who are
family
responsible
because
for
the
the
company
people
missed its
who are responsible
arbitrary
for the
projections
customer.
this year.
get that chain right, touching the customer, inventing the product, selling the product, figuring out ways how to build the company.
It's not a
manage the
meritocracy.
numbers, manage, spend more
We don't
time.
care how hard you work or how long you've worked here. If we miss our numbers and you happen to fall on the wrong side of the
protecting themselves from
spreadsheet,
you
I'm sorry,
than
even
doing their
mean. It doesn't
job.
mean you won't.
Right? Any company, for example, where it is standard practice in that company job, away from advancing the company's mission,
Walk around
in order to
crying,
protect
I'm
themselves
vulnerable,
from their own company.
right?
Bad leadership. Politics.
No, what vulnerability means is you create an environment in which someone feels safe enough to raise their hand and said, I don't know what I'm something up. I'm scared, I'm worried.
Gossip.
All of these things
All
no
of
one
these
would
things are
ever
people acting
admit
out of
inside a
self-interest.
company
That's what
because it
politics
puts
and
a
gossip is.
target on your head in case
In
there's
well-led
another
organizations,
company
you tend
ever
to
do
find very little politics and working together to compete.
well if nobody's ever willing to admit they made a mistake, that's scared, or they don't know what they're doing.
at a
And so we've
much higher
literally created cultures in which every
tell you
single
one
day
quick story.
everybody
True
comes to
story
work and
that captures
lies
it.
their
I was staying at the Four Seasons.
technology and build strong relationships at work. We're asking to do this, and these are the environments we've created. We're in control. What are we doing?
And I
This
think
is
I
what
gave
empathy
100%
means.
tip. I think my $5
It means
copy
if there's
I
an
gave
entire
$5.
generation,
And this guy was
they're not-
great. He was a joy. And I asked him, do you like your job? He said to me, I love my job, without skipping a beat. What is it that the Four Seasons is doing?
Not difficult or hard to understand. They're human beings like the rest of us, trying to find their way, trying to work in a place where they feel that someone cares about them. That's what we all want. In other words, it's not even generational. It's all of us. This is the practice of empathy. That if we're struggling to communicate to someone, if it's all you just ring
He
them.
says, when I go to work at Caesar's Palace, I keep my head, I want to get through the day and make a paycheck.
How can I get the most out of
Same
them?
person.
No, how do I help my people be at their natural best? Right? We're not asking to change.
Caesar's Palace, not because of Noah, but because of Noah's leadership.
Right.
And the joke is, if I were to go to the palace and say, you know it's you, they'll say, but
The
you
way
don't
we
understand.
see the
we cannot
world.
get good work out of our people. Look,
Someone's driving to work, you're driving to work, and someone wants to cut into your lane in. Most of us pull our cars up and go like this. You wait your turn. Now let's practice.
The morale improves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought that was hilarious because it's so terrifyingly accurate.
And astonishingly, have a career. You know, I talk about things like trust and cooperation. Why is there demand for my work? You know? But the fact that there is, I'll take it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
But what's really
And I'll arrive to
sort of
work
abominable
one car length
is
late.
that I know.
Right? We don't always have to be right. We don't always have to be in charge. After empathy comes perspective, where it's not about winning or losing.
So some spectacular leaders who don't have big Steve Jobsian visions. They're just not.
Agreed upon objective. Baseball, for example. We know the rules, we all agree to the rules, and whoever has more runs at the end of 9 innings is the winner, as known.
And they're spectacular, and people will give blood, sweat, and tears for these people. The one thing I am comfortable saying that all effective leaders must have is courage, because it is hard. It is hard
And
to stand
unknown
up
players.
against
The rules are
fire.
changeable,
Sometimes you get-
and the objective is to keep the game in play, to perpetuate the game. When you pit a finite player versus a finite player,
in trouble. Sometimes you'll lose your job, and the next guy will get all the credit. It's all true. And the courage to do the right thing, only the best leaders have that courage. Only the best leaders. And here's the folly. Courage is not some deep
no winners
to an ashram
or
by-
losers. Problems arise when you pit a finite player versus an infinite player. Vietnam, we were playing to win, and the Vietnamese were fighting for their lives. We were the ones who got stuck in quagmire. This is the Soviet Union and Afghanistan. They were trying to beat the Mujahideen, and the Mujahideen would fight for as long as
Yourself somewhere for 4 weeks and coming back and finding the courage. It's not what happens. It's the relationships that we foster. It's the people
existed or
around
has
us who love
existed
us and
long
care about us
before
and
every
believe in
single
us.
company that exists on this planet today. And it will outlast every single company that exists.
Those relationships that we foster over the course of a lifetime, they'll often save your life. They'll save you from depression. They'll save you from...
What time frame? A quarter, a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years? I haven't agreed to those standards. How can there is no winning because there's no end. In other words, companies are playing finite games. Listen to
This up. Just yesterday, this will mean something to you guys. I looked Ron Penna in his eyes and I said, I love you. And I said it like 100.
Davidson, they're the exception. No, they're playing the infinite contest. They frustrate their competition, is what happens. That's what Walmart to run for its money. He says public companies are looking to succeed for the quarter. He says we're looking for the next 50 years. You can hear him. He's playing the infinite
Being willing to
contest.
admit you made a mistake.
I spoke,
Being
at,
vulnerable
spent about
is the willingness to say, I need help, is the willingness to express the feelings you have towards someone without fear of what other people may think of you. It's dangerous.
70% of their presentations talking about how to beat Apple. At the Apple Summit,
Feel vulnerable.
100% of the executives gave me a gift. They
Into a job that you have no clue. Faking is a much better option, right?
gave me the new Zune, which was the competitor to the iPod Touch when it was a thing, right? And I have to tell you, this piece of technology was spectacular. It was beautiful.
He's blubbering all over the place, you know? That's not what people are thinking. I mean, some people are probably thinking it. But generally, that's not what people are thinking. If anything, people are going, cool. And that then inspires them to feel that they can...
I'm sitting in the back of a taxi with a senior Apple executive, sort of employee number 12 kind of guy. And I decide to stir the pot. And they gave me their new Zune. And I have to tell you, it is so much better than your iPod Touch. And he turned to me and
news and profits and market share. So let's focus on those things, because I can like pull a lever here and see what happens over there.
Right.
Lever here and I won't see anything for 6 months.
Soft. Oh, I've got the new iPod Touch. It's so
Not
much
that I
better
don't
than your new
advertise a
Zune.
number
They would
of
say,
our-
can we see it? What does it do? We have to see it. Because one is obsessed with their competition. Frustrates their competition is
That
because secretly
literally
they're
don't
not even
care about
competing
people. They
against
make
them.
decisions that literally
They're competing against
brush
themselves.
people aside.
And if you wake up every
Because it's hard to measure in an ultra speedy,
single morning, and compete against yourself. How do I make our products better than they were yesterday? How do I take
getting people excited about it and actually taking things from the ephemeral and making it very tangible?
Yep.
Do you think that's a question you're going to have to answer?
What you'll find is
Show
over
people
time,
Metrics are fine. If
you will
were to-
probably
if you-
be ahead more often. And they don't play to win every day. And they frustrate their competition until their competition continue to play, and we have no choice to either drop out of the game or merge our resources with another player so that we can stay